Good morning, good morning, good morning. How'd you all sleep? Or for those of you who are just waking up, how y'all doing? Wait, that's the same thing. For those of you going to sleep, how's your day been? Mm-hmm. You slept pissed. Oh, that's no fun. Have you tried sleeping not pissed? Or, did you get sleep? I slept. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You stayed up watching anime. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, well, I hope you can get some sleep now. Remember, anime will always be there, and trust me, it's a lot better when you're more conscious to enjoy it. Well, I probably got more than 3 hours. I at least tried. If I didn't get more than 3 hours, it wasn't for lack of trying. First off, thank you, Gibbets, for being first, Solian for being second, and Maddie for being third. Now, good mornings to everyone who's checked in. Good morning, Maddie, and Dumpster, and Spooky Kaz. Good morning, Asher, and Cinder, and Dasha. Morning, Alentia, and Elite Queen, and Pink. Good morning, Rain, and Onyx, and Necro Ninja. Morning, Luna Rain, Casual Lion, and Sakona. Good morning, Humina, Ariana, and Sleepy Sunny Puppy. Good morning, Julia. Good morning, Void. Morning, Lily Spoke Paradise. Good morning, Chicken Witch and Ocean. And apparently we're going to be doing this in the Southern voice. I hope you good luck, Yume. Good morning, Daya. Good morning, Virus. Good morning, Wolfos and Gibbets. Good morning, Boku, Kitty Goth, and Echo Infernal. Good morning, Cats and Unicorn and Goblin King Cody. Good morning, Spell and Lazy Potato. Good morning, Silly Goose and Halissima. Good morning, Hannah. Good morning, Sinful Microwave. Good morning, Amelia and Ash Ranger. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, CC Bear. Welcome to the menagerie. Good morning, Pinky and Misty Harvest. Good morning, Caitlin and Kakashi's wife, Sarah. Good morning, y'all. And good morning, Shadowy Destroyer. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Gonna drink a little bit of my tea. You ain't supposed to eat the skin, Sinful. Good morning, Shiny whatever. Spell, your name most definitely was not in there this time. Are you redeeming check-in? Or are you only redeeming the streak? So I'm gonna go through these right now. Well, good morning, Spell. And Lazy Potato and Silly Goose. morning. All right, we're gonna be doing some of this trash game. Been a lot of fun so far, just picking up the trash. And ideally, the audio's gonna be perfect because I haven't messed with it. Alright, let's get it. And I see some last minute check-ins, so I'll say hi to y'all too. Good morning, Leona. Good morning, Blinky, Meow Kitty Cat, and Dazai. There you go. All I want to do is go home. I feel that. I genuinely don't want to go to work today. I've considered taking the day off, but, you know, I need to get paid. I need to get paid. All right. Here we go. Let's see, how's the volume of the game? Not too loud? Looks a little loud. Might turn it down a tiny bit. Volume's good, you sure? Alright. You say so. I believe you. Nah, I've been feeling, I think I had a really long night. You ever know those nights that just don't seem to end properly? Well, honestly, it just feels like waiting for the next day. What am I not? No arson, reminding myself? Why were you gonna commit arson? Enjoy going to the college board, I wish you the best. Why were you planning on committing arson? That's what I want to know. I definitely got more than an hour's of sleep. I don't remember when I went to sleep, but I woke up at 1. Thank you for the follow, May May. Welcome to the menagerie. Am I still stuck in this force, or... No, we can go back to the normal one. A warm fire sounds lovely, doesn't it? I've been listening to fire sounds to go to sleep instead of my normal rain noises. Something so nice about a fireplace. I personally don't have any arson plans. I don't know about y'all. Of course. Today I have black tea. Go for it, Cinder. We're all allowed that. It's a lovely black tea. Lovely black tea with lemon. Thank you for the stretch. Right. You know what? Let's see if we can get some fire noises in here. I'd like some fire noises. And not some, fire noises. There it is. Nice. Fire's not too loud, is it? Good morning. Thank you for the good mornings. Nice. Now we can just set everything on fire. Very easy. Firewise does sound so nice. Oh, Croc was lovely. I liked Croc. I hope Croc likes me. Always, you know, have those worries in the VTube community. Being like, I hope the other people like me too. He said he did. What do you mean he said he did? Did you stay longer? Oh, she, thank you, she. How am I doing so far this morning? Pretty nice. You liked my vibe. Y'all were so freaking adorable, by the way. Y'all were so adorable. Y'all went into that stream and were like hyping me up a bunch and played along with the games, and it was just lovely. Very kind. Goofy, of course, but you know, y'all never disappoint me. He put Glitch Spanker on his wish list. I hope the dev comes by and sees him play the game. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Gotta do math homework. Lame. Who does math homework? I'm just kidding. Do your homework. No, don't let me discourage you, because somebody's gonna be like, well, Gene said I don't need to do homework. No, do your homework. I never liked math either. It got to the point where it was a lot of memorizing formulas, and then I was just bored of it. That's good. I'm glad you like math. I think for some people who can like learn the formulas, it becomes just problem solving and doing little puzzles. But eventually, some of us mentally clock out of it. And that was my experience. Which is okay. Oh, you canceled the appointment? What appointment did you have? For science. Science is nice. I liked psychology. Oh. Shoe. Shoe works. They gave him the Kai Cenat face. I need this guy. My mom kinda homeless. See, I did bad in all my English classes. That's because I got along with the English teacher. Any class where I saw the teacher as a friend, I couldn't really work properly in. Oh. Good morning, Moo. I suppose that means we gotta bring up that scene, don't we? Give me 1 second here. Good morning, Raiders. I don't know if we have any mods in today. Oh, Pinky should be here. Pinky, would you mind doing a shout out for me? Well, hello, lovely Raiders. This is my basement. And even though you're all cuddly and cozy, I still need to go through the usual procedure. Moo, how was your stream? And now it's time. Let me find it. Let me find it. It's here somewhere. Be patient. There it is. You trapped here now, Raiders. I hope you enjoy your time here. I'll make sure to keep it as cozy as I possibly can. Oh. See, chat, Moo just hates me. I knew it. That's fine. But go check them out, lovelies. They are a fantastic ASMR streamer. Do very, very lovely content. Don't lick the Raiders. Oh, why would you do that? You should have gotten some sleep. I hope you're able to get some good sleep now, but thank you so much for the raid. How did your stream go? I mean, if you need to raid and run, feel free to do so. No licking. It's too early in the morning to lick people. We're playing some of this game today. Cleaning up a bunch of trash piles. It's really relaxing. Why can't we kick them? Why would you want to kick them?
I'm not quite sure how to help you.
Once. Sorry, apparently my Alexa wanted to get involved in this. She just goes, I don't know how to help you with that. So apparently even Alexa is confused of why you can't lick. Well, if they consent to being licked a little bit, you can lick them, but only if they consent. An elf? Oh, that sounds like a lovely story. Thank you for the follow, and welcome to the menagerie. Were you doing Christmas things then? I forgot, it is December, isn't it? Should I have played Christmas music instead? Cinder, you can have your own cage. We'll have a no-licking cage. There's a lot of fun, lots of ornaments. Fire is Christmas music. You're right. You're right. Play Halloween music to throw people off. She's been thawed. Mariah Carey has been thawed. Makes me wonder why they keep putting her in ice. I believe so. I did see a meme earlier. Keeps her fresh. Oh, I have a question. My brain is... Die Hard. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes or no? Mariah Carey's a cryptid. Die Hard is a Christmas movie? Now, why is it a Christmas movie? No. Oh, bird. I'm a cute goblin kitty boy. You have a good night as well. Well, I mean, does that mean if I put anything Christmas in a movie, it makes it a Christmas movie? So if I made a hardcore slasher film, but it takes place on Christmas, it's a Christmas movie. That doesn't seem right. I feel like a Christmas movie needs to have like a message or a meaning behind it, you know? Are there horror Christmas movies? Christmas gone wrong. Yeah. But would a killer snowman movie be a Christmas movie? Santa kills a bunch of people. Yeah, see, The Nightmare Before Christmas makes sense as a Christmas movie, though. Because there's a whole message, and it's about, you know, like, learning to like what you have and not to, be so unsatisfied. There's, like, all growth with Jack Skellington and all that. There's a message. I'd say Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie. Gremlins is also... I've never seen Gremlins. Do I need to see Gremlins at some point? Watch half on Halloween, half on Christmas. Are voidlings gremlins? Should I not be feeding you all? So that's why I don't feed you. To make sure nothing bad happens. Oh, you sell them. Eat drywall. Is that why you're all still alive? Very impressive. You have all survived incredibly well. I'm proud of you. We must be fed. If you get fed, you'll grow up big and strong. What if I'm scared of my chat being big and strong? More like Flubber. Alright, chat, I'm gonna put you on the bottom of my shoes. We're gonna win a basketball game. You ready? Actually, too many people might like being stepped on. No cheer from the sidelines. We function like snakes, have to eat like once every couple of months. That makes sense, that checks out. But see, that's the thing though, like I wonder what the definition of, I mean, I guess Christmas movie definition can be whatever you really want it to be. I guess the one thing would be, I guess, a Christmas classic. You know, anything can be a Christmas movie, but not everything can be a classic Christmas movie. Oh, enjoy your work, Shu. I wish you the best of luck, Shu. You got this. Let me know how they go, okay? What's your favorite Christmas movies, though? If you have your favorite Christmas movie, what is it? Only one. Here, kitty, kitty. Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and Christmas movies, they are Die Hard. Die Hard. And for Christmas, nice, nice, nice. I don't know if I... Batman. And I don't even know if that one happens on Christmas, but the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, where he sings the, I think that might be the nipple suit one. But he does the whole, I'm Mr. White Christmas, I'm Mr. Snow, I'm Mr. He plays, wait, have you all not seen the Tim Burton and the, oh shoot, what's the other one? What the Tim Burton Batmans? Yeah, you had George Clooney Batman. You have was it Robert? Was Robert De Niro in that one? You had Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, Jim Carrey as the Riddler. I think Uma Thurman as Ivy. Some big names, at least at the time. Danny DeVito's the Penguin, that's right. Hi, hi. With the Bat credit card. I remember the ads. They had all like the Batman toys. I think one of those was the one where he couldn't move his head and had to turn his entire body. Oh, it was Nicole Kidman as Poison Ivy, that's right. It was so good. It was so, like, comedic and camp. Yeah, I loved it. And hello, new person. Lovely to see you. Welcome to the menagerie. I like when Arnold was goofy. Yes, it really felt like Gotham, you know? So it was like kind of over the top. Halle Berry was Catwoman in one of them. Yeah, yes. But that wasn't in that one, I think. That was it? Was she in one of them? No, she was just Catwoman. Uma, okay, Uma was Poison Ivy in that one. Wait. Yes. Thank you for the headpads. I kind of want to go watch all the Batman movies. Just all of them in a row. Cause like, I like Zack Snyder's Batman. No, there was a Catwoman in one of them. Because, that was the one where she falls out the window and the cats, chew on her to bring her back alive. Which was so ridiculous. And then she just stitches a cat suit. It was so weird. The cats are just chewing on her to bring her back alive or something, and she's now a zombie. I guess it happens. I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Not Guardians of the Galaxy, I have seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't seen the, there's the one that they did with, Jack Frost. Not, where it's like, it's about, like, the kid dies. Rise of the Guardians, that's what it is. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the menagerie. Oh, you know what I really liked? Though I don't think it holds up. The Santa Claus. The one with, Tim the Toolman Taylor, whatever his real name is. Tim Allen, that's right. I'm glad y'all know more than I do. You like Rise of the Guardians? Valid. I really don't watch a lot of movies, honestly. Home Alone 2 is good. See, I usually always watched movies as a family growing up. And so, like, at a certain point, I just, like, got bored with movies because you have to sit down and pay attention to them. I watch a lot of, like, anime and TV shows because it's easier to digest and I can just kind of play them when I do something else. I do love podcasts, though, and stories. Have you all ever heard of the Magnus Archive? The Magnus Archive is incredible. Oh, sweet. Yeah, let me talk about it a little bit. So the Magnus Archive is a horror podcast about, without spoiling anything, it is an archive that takes record of weird going-ons. People go there with their stories and their, unique occurrences with an attempt to, you know, kind of let out the ideas and the stories that haunt them. And we follow a character who recently took over the archive and who's trying to sort it. So he's going through like old records and he's listening to new people. And occasionally they'll do like investigations on like whatever the person reported. It's a lot of fun. I've listened to Welcome to Night Vale a little bit, not too much, but it is on one of my lists of things to watch to completion. You should definitely watch the Magnus Archive. It is incredible. They're doing a second season currently. Well, maybe not a second season, but a second series. So, like, the first one came to an end, and now there's more. But I will not give you any spoilers on that. Good morning, Bunny Latte. I was writing one. A similar thing, an audio drama. But I never finished it. Mine was about a guy who worked as an IT person in an office during COVID, and there was nobody else that worked at the company besides him. It felt like he's just there. He takes in IT calls during his day, heads home at night, comes back the next day. And during some of his calls, weird things start happening. He's told just to report those higher up. And he starts realizing that there's a lot of discrepancies with everything. Like, when he goes home at night, he doesn't remember what he did at night, but he does remember coming back into the office every day. And he never has really the urge to leave besides at that certain time, but when he does try to leave at other times, he just sort of comes back in the next day again. Man, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but it would take me hours to walk y'all through all of the ideas I had. Thank you for the hydrate. Cheers. A hotel that ain't people. Ooh, I like that. Thank you for the follow, Kai. Welcome to the menagerie. Oh, I have too many stories in my head all the time. Sometimes I just need to tell some of them or write them down, or else my head would be flooded with ideas all the time. It's not Severance, it's more of a, I mean, since I'm not going to write it anyways, I can give you all some ideas. The office building he's in is alive, and he's actually an entity of the office that is being used to try to spread the seed of the office to other locations. And anytime he leaves the building, he actually gets shot and is just respawned the next day by the building. And that the entire point of the building is to make him go through a progress of growth until he's ready to kind of hatch. Yes, Liana, I work with servers, computers, phones, printers, pretty much everything. Morning, Nix. I don't say how old I am. A VTuber is ageless intentionally. That was the point, though. It was supposed to be creepy. Exactly, I'm 500. Why is everybody saying 5? I've not read Jaunt. What's it about? If you don't mind me asking. The longer than you think. I need to read more. I miss reading. I remember when I was very, very young, I used to read every single day. I'd sit in a chair in a dark room, probably why I need glasses, in an awful, awful position. See, here's how I'd lay. I'd put my back in the corner of the chair, throw my legs up onto the armrest of the chair so I was basically folded in half. And then I wondered why my back hurt afterwards for reading long periods of time. Set in the future? Oh, really? That does sound interesting. I do love Stephen King. Swear the days. Though I always remember sitting in a chair, my father playing Ace Combat in front of me, and him suddenly raging out of the game And he stands up, lifts this big sofa chair, and just slams it on the ground while I'm sitting behind him. It's just like terrifying at the moment, you know? And I now see him play those games, and I'm like, Dad, you were just bad at the games. I wanted to read Long Walk, it's on my list. Oh, I'd like to do a whole reading of all of Edgar Allan Poe. Well, spend some time picking up a book today. You know what? If y'all read a little bit, and y'all report back to me that you read, maybe I'll read a little bit too. We can all, you know, pick back up on things that we should be doing. It's a lofi. Hamster. Yeah. Don't force it. Just pick up a book. Why do I know the difference about what spell? Pick up a book, read a little bit. You're not feeling it at the time, put it back down and do something else. But you know, keep a book around you, just to take a look. Oh, Laboob and Lafufu? Oh, there's no difference. In this game, they're called a Lafufu, I think, when I tried to sell it. Or somebody called it a Lafufu. I don't know what the difference is. Do comic books count? Anything counts. I'm just reading. Oh, is it? See, yeah, I don't know the difference. I just repeat things that the people say to me. Oh, there is a font that does help with dyslexia. But yeah, if y'all are interested in reading but have dyslexia, something I would definitely suggest. There are digital readers that have a different font to make it easier to read. Why not, Sinful? Go for it. Oh, what was the one that annoyed me? Oh, Solo Leveling annoyed me. I liked Solo Leveling, the webcomic, but I like reading light novels. Right? Light novels are fantastic. But for some reason they wrote a light novel based on the webcomic. And so I was just like, this is honestly exactly what the webcomic is. Thank you for the headbats. So it was just like, it was really weird to try to read a light novel based on a webcomic. There was no, like, there's nothing additional. Are the Warrior Cat book series any good? I should just write a light novel. I want to eat... Really? Do I want to know why they want to eat the pancreas? Dungeon Meshi. Oh, Dungeon Meshi is so lovely. I love the anime for Dungeon Meshi, but I just like food a lot. I 100%, like, if I ever do any sort of, you know, hand stream or anything, I might try to cook everything from Dungeon Meshi. If it was written as a light novel first, before an anime, yes. Like, if it's an anime based on a light novel, those I've enjoyed a lot. Having got reincarnated as a slime. Do you know why a lot of these games... I play games on PC. A lot of these games... Not games, sorry. Anime, manga, webcomics, and light novels have these really long names. Is because a lot of them were from a website where the only way to really like get a summary across to people was through the title. So the meta was to make these long titles so people can understand what your light novel was before ever opening it up. Yes. Yeah, that's why they have these interesting, longer title names. And a lot of them all came from the same website and the same era of writing. And that's why you have so many series that are exactly the same, because they were writing like what was popular at that time. They were all trying to like, you know, get attention, because you'd get money based on like how many views you would get, and you might get like sponsored if you got like a certain amount of views. So everybody basically kept rewriting the same thing that everybody else was writing because it was popular at the time. It was just people doing social media. And that's why you get like 100 isekais at the same time and 100 blah blah blahs at the same time. I did technically get more sleep. I slept very rough though. Yep, they're doing trends. And I mean, also consider this. If there's 100 light novels about isekai and you've read 100 isekai, you're gonna be like, you know what? I think I could do this better. And so somebody else writes the next isekai. Or like, I like this isekai, but I think it would be better if it had more of this mechanic involved. I mean, heck, I've thought about it a few times. I wanted to write one about a drug addict who gets respawned in another world. He finds out that necromancy gives him a similar rush to drugs. And so he becomes addicted to raising the dead. As in, like, death magic triggers similar similar parts in the brain. I like Berserk. And yeah, those were all written as manga first. Or of certain storylines. It was before they had these, like, big websites. One of my favorite ones that I was reading was called The Drug Addicted Mage. And I liked it a lot, but it looks like this series is just dead in the water. I liked it because instead of like being a, you know, either like European style fantasy or whatever, it was future. It was based in like the future. So the idea was that the guy went to go and play a video game, and he liked to make really difficult builds for characters. And so he made this character that had a lot of drawbacks, but a lot of positives. Like, for one instance, being very frail and weak, having drug addiction and all that. And the game took him and made him be that character. So it, like, made the world real. Welcome, Lada. And, so it's like, it's a mixture of like futuristic, apocalyptic, extreme like cyberpunk vibes, while also having like heavy magical elements. And he has to use drugs regularly to kind of keep himself stable. Thank you, Zakona. I will. How dare you bunk me? Yeah, except Sherlock does drugs for fun because he thought they made him better. I mean, I know he's also addicted, but you know. Doing the opiums. Good morning, Mutt. Good morning, Finn. Welcome. You are trapped in my basement. Congrats. Thank you for the stretch. I was shrimping a little bit. Have you all taken your meds this morning? Taken any pills that you needed to take, or eaten any breakfast? Well, take meds, eat food. Go for it. I'll be here. Go take care of the things that you need to take care of. I'm not going anywhere. Finn, well then I'll lay back. Close your eyes. And listen to me yap if that's the thing that you can sleep to. See, I wanted to write I wanted to write a reverse isekai. What the? Wait a second. Well, there's not much going on in the game. I'm just cleaning up trash. Give me a phone. Thank you for the follow, Zine. But yeah, we'll talk about the reverse isekai in just a second. Right. Oh, look at that. Okay, so the idea of the story was fantasy world character, living magic, a hero who had reached the end of his journey, fighting the big bad, and the big bad decides that he's going to escape. And so he creates a portal and pulls both the classic princess and the hero into it. And the hero stumbles out into 1920s America. No magic, no powers. And it's having to join a gang and attempts to find the villain. And while there, he realizes that the mob boss's daughter looks a lot like the princess. And so he thinks it must be the princess, that she's just forgotten all of her memories. Yeah, but isekai classically is the real world to a fantasy world. So instead it's them being taken from the... yeah. But yeah, so it would go along the lines of the hero slowly trying to gain back his abilities while trying to protect this mob boss's daughter, eventually realizing that it isn't the princess he's looking for, and kind of having to decide, like, does he go back to his old life or live the new one? By the way, apparently we're not drinking energy drink. Apparently we're drinking beer. Well, I write down a lot of my ideas. I don't have time to write them all. Exactly, Danny. Hello, Fox. Hello, little stylist. Hello, Mario. That's what he's taking for his energy drink, is beer. Did I make that one? Ooh, close. Oh, no. I mean, I could drink beer. I have beer underneath my desk that I keep forgetting is there. Can we make snow angels? If you had snow, this would just be trash angels. It's me, I'm a trash angel. Ooh, thank you so much for the redeem. I like how this is not enough money, but it's letting me buy more. Wait a second. It's not stopping me. Thank you for the stretch. We're $731 in debt, y'all. I bet Josh from Let's Game It Out played this game and figured out that he could break the game. I'm such a good doggy. I think the way that you could break this game before, I'm assuming, is that if you pick up all the trash and then you buy a bunch of energy drinks, you could probably reach a point where you couldn't afford to get any more energy, and you couldn't pick up anything to sell. So that's why it's probably set to allow negative dollars. Oh yeah, I found a lot of cards. I guess we could probably clean up some of them. Let's clean up some cards. Puff it. Bonkle. Jacksepticeye. It's Markiplier. Cragget. Grimeslug. Another Grimeslug. You like your coffee black, just like your metal? The bass, the rock, the mic, the treble. I like my coffee black, just like my metal. I can't say it. The bass, the rock, the mic, the treble. I like my coffee black, just like my metal. The bass, the rock, the mic. I like my coffee black, just like my metal. In a minute, I can't wait for you. In a minute, in a second. No, thank you for that, Bats. Mind the self-indulgence. Floating trash. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what they called me in high school, floating trash. Imagine. I didn't really get any nicknames, even like bad ones. No. That's what they called me in high school. Oh, come on, get up, Chicken Witch. You got this. I believe in you. Believe in the me that believes in the you that believes in the heart of the cards. Oops. F the rules, I have money. Valid. My Potter. Good nicknames, good nicknames. Y'all, I need a nickname. Give me a nickname right now. I believe in you, got this. If you were to nickname me anything, what would it be? Pupper, Wolf, Bad Matty, Good Boy. Genie Beanie. Genie Beanie's goofy. I like that. That's cute. Oh? Why that one, Kizu? I like, Genie Beanie. No, I'm evil, it's too late. I am evil, you can't stop me. Even if you want to. Oh. Yes, but I'm not a fan of the term daddy. That's why I go by father instead. Alpha. Oh, definitely not Oni-chan. Definitely not Oni-chan. Plus, Daddy has sexual implications, and that's not at all the kind of vibe I want to give off. I know what my voice is like. I've always had that issue. Father Wolf is cute. Bye, Luna. Mr. Grumbles. Thank you for the stretch. Well, the cave was just a goofy bit at first, but it worked so well I kept playing with it. I got you, Kizu. I hear ya. I'm glad I can teach people things. Gene Bean. Sleep well, Spooky. I can't believe we've cleaned through almost 2 piles of trash today. That's crazy. Tea is a great way to start the day. Thank you for the check-in. My menagerie. It's gonna go even faster now that I figured out I can make a portal. Ask Gene what. Lemon is good in tea. I had some lemon, actually, in my tea this morning. I might make some more, tea just so I can put more lemon in it. Just, you know, just don't eat the lemon. What's making your OCD cry? I think I have 2 more lemons, actually. Fair enough. Well, we're currently separating the bad from the good. It goes going to a single stream recycling plant. That would be adorable. Little black cat dropping off. I think it'd be cute. Eating lemons is good for you. There's a lot of things that are good for you that I don't do. And that's not going to change anytime soon. Imagine. Imagine just having lemons delivered to your door all the time and not realizing why they're there. Would you give us whole lemons to us voidlings? I'd cut them first. I don't trust y'all with knives. Wait, come on. There we go. Zoned out there for a second. White or gold? Lemons? Don't eat the peel. Peel's not good for you. What is Paimon's intentions? Y'all don't eat Paimon. Do you want to eat canned soda? Don't eat can of soda. Is lemon peel spicy? I mean, it tastes toxic. I can't believe you let your neighbors step on it. You should beat them up now. Yes, Maddie, I'm listening. Define emergency. Oh yeah, like lemon zest. I love lemon zest. Welcome, Shanks. Good morning. I have an idea. We're gonna try this out. I just need to find something that I can store. There we go. It works. I can't read. Sorry, what happened? Almost worked. think this is the hack. Ooh, wow, I zoned out. I used to eat the inside of a lemon peel of orange. I like that, yeah. Really? I'll have to do that. Thank you, Gibbets, for the stretch. Greatly appreciate it. What's my favorite soda? Lemon soda. Lemon soda is my favorite soda. It is an Italian soda. It comes in a black can, and it's called lemon soda. That is one of the few things I have an actual answer for. Thank you for the head pats. I do like lemons for the most part. I just would never eat them. You can't eat a can of soda. You can drink a can of soda, but you may not eat it. I've heard about that. The guy who ate the whole plane. The can is not edible if you eat it. It can still be bad for your digestion. Don't eat the can of soda. No melting aluminum to drink it. Aluminum is not yummy. How do you know if aluminum is yummy? I can make pancakes. It's not my fault they eat the cage. I've been trying to stop that. Yeah, y'all just need iron supplements. Yes, you are in a cage. Oh, I need more beer. I will make you pancakes. I will make you bacon pancakes. Never. I would never call you fat. Rotund, maybe, because it's a funnier word. You can have protein. You can have eggs. You can play some PlayStation, yes, and you can watch some cartoons too. But I'm picking the cartoons. We'll see what I pick. You have to deal with whatever I pick. I don't know. I think today I want to watch, like, Animaniacs, something goofy. We're watching Adventure Time. Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. First you take some bacon and you put it in a pancake. Making pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancake. Favorite type of anime? Thrillers. I like a good thriller. One of my favorite is Psychopaths. Though I hate some of the style of Psychopaths, but I really liked the first season a lot. I'm not going to tell you how I watched Adventure Time the first time I saw it. I will tell you that I watched it in college. I like Future Diary. I've seen it. Oh no, was not sat in a cloud. Thank you for the hydrate and stretch. Same way I watch regular show, actually. Oh no, that's not what the... nothing. Y'all fine, y'all fine. Hi, Hoshi. Welcome, Hoshi. I don't know if we have any mods in this morning. Well, good morning, Hoshi. Welcome to the basement. You know the drill. Stay in the right place. Alright, don't move. Don't move. There we go. Good morning, Hoshi. You hired yourself to be a guard, valid. Too bad. But welcome, Raiders. How was stream? What were you doing? I'm assuming some mining crafts. 'Cause I know you. Did you have fun? Oh, if you need to raid and run, feel free to do so. I know you stream for a long period of time, so get your rest. Stretch your legs. Eeps. I did like the Apothecary Diaries. It was nice. What are the rules for being a guard? Do not let anybody escape. That's the one rule. Don't let anybody escape. Thank you for the follow, Froggies are swaggy. Welcome to the menagerie. Prison fight nights? I don't think any of the voidlings can fight. Y'all can try, though. You have a strong fish that you can softly tap that knocks someone out of their run to escape. Is that good? That works. I don't understand how that works, but that works. Where'd you get a knife? Who gave the voidlings a knife? Fish has been eaten. Well... Where did you get a knife? Stop handing out knives. I agree, Madeline. I like them as well. Well, because I'm worried where you got weapons from. That's scary. Who's giving you weapons? Is it the Cage Man? I forgot. You make a Cage Man lore video. So dumb. Bye, Kayla. No guns. Knives I will allow, but no guns. You at least have to have skill to wield a knife. Fine, you can have Nerf guns. Just this once. Katana. That's valid. I like Nerf guns. I always wanted the one that was like 3 Nerf guns in one that could transform. Don't play with the butterfly knife, you're gonna hurt yourself. Thank you for the sub, Danny. Greatly appreciated, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for the stretch. Oh, I'm tired. Not as tired as yesterday, but still pretty tired. Exactly, you can have a Nerf war. Oh, no, I just woke up, Madeline. I, sleep from 9:30 p.m. to, 3 a.m. And I stream. Good night, Ian. Sleep well. Alright, I guess we're gonna be doing the Southern Wars for a little while. Right now it's 5:11, actually. 5:11. In about 20 minutes, I will be going to work. Nah, I can't sleep more than 6 hours. If I sleep any more than 6 hours, I don't feel good. Too much sleep at that point. Problem is when I get under 6 hours, I don't do well either. I'm glad it's not 7-Eleven by me, because then I would be late for work. What, sleep longer than 6 hours? Nah, ain't worth it for me personally. Oh, lucky you. I wish I had off. That would have been nice. Your daddy had pink? Oh, congrats. I hope it went well. We got quite a few piles of trash left. I'm feeling very sleepy all of a sudden. Thank you for the hydrate. Cheers. I'm ready to get this work day done with. That's what I'm ready for. Existing is too relaxing right now. I woke up earlier than I wanted to, a little bit stressed out. I think I finally relaxed a lot, and that's making me tired again. Do you feel bonita? I feel bonita. I always got long days. I'll be alright. Happens. Not every night is as restful as the next. But I think today's gonna be great. Today's gonna be a good day for every one of us. I refuse to believe it won't be. Put me to bed. Nah. Gotta put me to work. I'll drink water, don't you worry. Ooh, big old eagle. One day, ooh. One day. Thank you for that, Bats. One day, this will all be what I need to do. I'll stream for a while. Then, I'll take a little nap. Wake up again. Then another day. Work on some other content. Do some collabs. Take another little nap. Wake up again, do another little stream, then read a bedtime book, and then go back to sleep. I know it's a long way away, y'all, but I am looking forward to the day when this is all I do. I just make content all day, make y'all long-form videos, do some short-form stuff. Oh, after stream. My evening stream, I spend about an hour to 2 hours making a TikTok. Usually just an hour or 30 minutes. Post it up real quick. And then I go to bed. But if I had all the time in the world, I would be making so much stuff. Y'all would be sick of me with how much stuff I make. You'd be like, Gene, stop making new videos. Stop making more TikToks. What are you doing? Stop writing an entire comic book series. Why are you writing a book too? I'd be working out every single day. Want me to count cowgirls? Ooh, man, I want to count some cowgirls. Why don't make more? Because I do a TikTok every single day. So here's how my day goes, by the way. I wake up every morning at 3:30. At 3:30, I immediately start streaming. I stream for 2 hours. 5:30 kicks in and my at-home part of my job starts. I work from home until about 7. I drive then into work, which during this time I have also taken a shower. I drive into work. Spend my rest of my day there. At 2 p.m., I start to drive home. I get home around 2:30 to 3. From 3 to 4, I eat dinner. At 4, I stream. 4 to 6, I stream. Immediately after stream, I then make a TikTok. That takes me about an hour to half an hour. So that's going to be at least 7, if we're lucky. Usually I'll take a half an hour to decompress a bit, too. Then I got to get ready for my next day. Do any little bit of social networking I need to do, talk to people, reach out to my manager, see if I can apply for any sponsors. And on certain days I study Japanese, other days I do singing lessons, then I go to bed. Every single day. And that's why I don't do more. Because I don't got time for more, unfortunately. Working a full-time job, streaming, content creation, all that. Nah, it's fine. I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. It's all I want to do. All I want to do is this. If I had more time in the day, I would just spend more time making things. No, luckily I don't work weekends. But weekends is when I try to, you know, reach out to family and do some connecting there. Catch up on sleep, because I usually am very tired. Do more networking then. Plan out some collabs, which we got coming up soon. Don't forget, Thursday's gonna be amazing. I'm fine. That's the thing, like, this does not burn me out. I know there's a lot of people out there who this kind of stuff burns out, but, like, it is my special interest. It's my hyperfixation. Some people have trains, I have content creation. I like every part of it, from the editing to the streaming to the ideas to figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Oh, Thursday evening, it's going to be a slightly later stream at 5 instead of my 4 p.m. start. And we're doing a collab with Goblin Fia, Tippy Hendrix, Magical John John, and Moo Moo. And yeah, like, I mean, like, all I really want to do is just have more time so I can work on all the lore stuff as well. Trollingle. Yeah, I only have about, like, 15 letters of kanji so far. Is it kanji or hiragana that's easier? One of them. I think it's hiragana. That's fine. I'll definitely make a video out of it later. I need to send my stuff to an editor for dispatch. Thank you for the follow, Murder Mole. Welcome to the menagerie. Alright, yeah, so I know 15 characters of hiragana. No, Cinder. Don't you dare feel bad just because somebody else has different stuff going on. Your stuff is just as valid as anybody else's stuff, and it doesn't matter how much you have. We all have different levels of energy. We all have different stressors and the way things affect us. It is not... You don't downplay your things. You're allowed to feel bad. Just because there's a child starving in Africa does not mean that you can't be hungry. And I think that's one of the worst things in the world is when people try to compare everything to others. Your own life matters. And of course, if your stresses are less than somebody else's, smaller stresses are going to have bigger effects. It's fine. Back when I used to drink, it was always funny. People would try to drink like I did. But you forget I'm 6'4". And so many people would like make themselves sick to the point of like, I worried for their health. Same thing with life. You're not living anybody else's life but your own. Your own life does matter. And honestly, your own life should be the most important thing to you. I mean, Ian, what's the point of out drinking me? I'm at a point in life where if I drink, it's because I'm doing it for fun. I have nothing to prove to anybody but myself. The only thing that I have to prove to myself is that I'm doing better than I was the day before. that I'm a better person than I once was. That I deserve kindness just as much as everyone else does. And though it's hard to tell yourself that sometimes, you do too. You deserve just as much kindness as anybody else. As everyone else. It is. Even a person who feels like they're a bad person deserves love, care, support as much as anyone else. I know that personally. Hi, Kitty Agoth. How you doing? True. We're all responsible for our own feelings. Remember, you cannot make anybody feel anything. Feelings are inside and eternal. You can do things, and then people can react to it in a certain way. But everyone's feelings are their own. Doesn't mean you need to be a dick, though. Oh yeah. I think for the longest time, I wanted somebody who had it all together to tell me what to do. To tell me how to have it all together like they did and to figure things out. And the more I've met people, the more I realize nobody has it all together. Nobody really knows how to make anything work and has the solution to everything. Nobody can tell you what you need to hear. Things get easier, sure. You learn things. But I don't know. It's hard. Oh, it's only been an hour and 49 so far. We're getting close. I have 5 minutes before the end of stream. Oh, 2 hours in 10 minutes. Got you. Thank you, Gibbets. I think I said 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome to the menagerie. You will meet people who will hug. You'll meet people who care. But a reminder that you can only meet those people if you go out to find them. And I know going out itself can be hard to do on its own. Alright, lovelies. We're getting close to the end here. We're gonna have to find somebody to raid out to, because I gotta go do some work. For work. Unfortunately. That's all good. Don't worry, we stream every single day. Every single day. Starting at 3:30 MST. Ending at 5:30 MST. And then also, in the evening, at 4 p.m. MST. Every day except the days I do collabs, at which point the time changes. Alright. We're gonna see if I can find somebody to raid out to. Let's see who we have. Oh, Yuki's awake. Perfect. We haven't raided into Yuki for a little bit. We're gonna do an EP raid. Thank you for the headbands. There's the raid message. And we're gonna go raid into Yuki. Y'all have been as amazing as always, and I hope you know I do really, really appreciate you all. Thank you all for coming by today. Mwah. 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 Bye, lovelies.